Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Carlos McConney.
That's right. We have this week's Euromaxx highlights just for you coming up during the next half hour. So please take your seats, get comfortable, and get ready for some very interesting European cultural news updates. Here we go. All alone, why many young Germans are remaining single. Alpine Retreat, a luxury hotel in Bavaria and its famous concerts. Down Below, an underground lake in Switzerland, is a hit with tourists. In recent months, the German media have been publishing reports related to young people and their inability to maintain long-lasting relationships. Author Michael Nast has written a book on the topic, and for months now, he's been promoting it. Even though the book has been selling well, it has been met with widespread criticism by experts who say it oversimplifies a very complex matter. Let's take a look at today's first report, and you can go ahead and just judge for yourself.
Author Michael Nast is giving a talk at the University of Kiel. It's the 61st stop on his book tour, and around 800 people have come to hear him read from his bestseller Generation Beziehungsunfähig, about a commitment-phobic generation. The book has topped the German non-fiction charts for months. In Anecdotes, Nast writes about the complicated love lives of singles between the ages of 20 and 40. Now and then you can recognize yourself to a degree in satires like this. It really makes you think. At our age, whether you recognize yourself or not, you just can't escape it because it surrounds you every day. Michael Nast was born in Berlin. Before he started writing, he worked in advertising. In 2015, he penned an online column describing the commitment-shy Generation Y. The text struck a chord and received over 1 million clicks within a matter of days. The idea for the book was born.
I describe the sensibilities of people considered incapable of commitment by either themselves or those around them. There appears to be a need for material like this. I don't pretend to be an expert and don't dispense advice. I take a literary approach to create an authentic image of life.
Nast uses stories from his circle of friends in Berlin to describe the current attitude towards relationships. He tries to capture the love life of the younger generation in sentences such as, "We want eternal devotion and self-surrender, but despair when we realize that life rarely resembles the movies." Nast believes that young Germans' love lives have also changed because of the proliferation of online dating sites and dating apps. They expand the pool of potential partners and raise the bar.
The problem is that ultimately we've conformed so well to our consumer society that we approach interpersonal relationships like consumers. Dating apps are a good example. They're set up like online shops, so we use the same principles to go about choosing a partner as we do a product.
Lisa Fischbach works as a couples psychologist for Elite Partner, one of the largest online dating sites in Germany. It conducts studies into the lives of singles, including whether they're incapable of committing. The desire to have a lifelong partner remains unchanged. We find that again and again in our surveys. 90% of people want someone to be their one and only forever after. That's the romantic ideal, but the reality looks quite different. The tolerance for frustration has fallen, and with it the staying power to suffer through phases in which things aren't going so well. So the readiness to leave a relationship has increased. Relationships have grown more unstable because there's less willingness to invest in solving problems. Fischbach says the millennials should really be described as unwilling rather than unable to commit, and she thinks that's due to their tireless quest for the picture-perfect life. We're no longer looking for a suitable partner to have a happy relationship with. Instead, we're looking for the best partner for a perfect relationship. That means we're also shoving the entire responsibility onto the other party. They must ensure that the relationship works perfectly. Social scientist Christian Schmidt says the way in which the younger generation conducts its relationships can be traced back to the social changes of the last 40 years. Men no longer tend to be the sole breadwinners, with wives who are economically dependent on them. Couples split up more quickly. But that doesn't mean that love and relationships are a thing of the past.
What we're seeing is that the phases in which people live alone are becoming more frequent, and these phases are becoming increasingly socially acceptable. That's the biggest change. But I very much doubt that an entire generation is incapable of forming relationships.
Back in Kiel, even if the experts don't think commitment phobic is the right way to describe the love life of many young Germans, it makes for a catchy headline.
People see themselves in the book. They identify strongly with the material and, interestingly, they use it as a means to reflect upon themselves, to get some distance and look at life from a different perspective, and to look at what isn't working out right.
You could accuse Michael Nast of generalizing the experiences of young people living in Berlin, a very tiny sample of the population. But his book's appeal is broad. It's already sold 140,000 copies across Germany.
Let's move on to one of Europe's underground attractions. We head towards a disused salt mine near the Polish city of Krakow. Salt, in its heyday, was a highly valuable commodity, and the mine we are about to see brought significant wealth to the region. However, since it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1978, it is once again providing wealth to the area, but this time because it has become one of the region's top tourist attractions.
A world deep below the surface, with its own chapel, a spa, and a mining workshop for tourists. We've come to the former Wieliczka salt mine. For 7 centuries, table salt was mined here. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site with around 1 million tourists every year.
I read about this and I'm a tourist student, so I know perfectly what is inside. So expectation is big.
I came recommended by my friend, so yeah, let's just go.
There are 2 ways to descend into this underworld. You can take the stairs, or if you're in a hurry, there's the elevator. The mine's 9 levels lie between 64 meters and 135 meters below the surface. More than 2,000 chambers were created by the mining process. Now you'll find fascinating items such as sculptures made of rock salt, carved by the miners. After walking around for an hour through the tunnels and chambers, visitors will come upon the mine's greatest attraction, the Chapel of St. Kinga, built around 1895, 110 meters below the surface.
Usually 3-4 miners died here every year because of different accidents. So miners wanted to have places to pray. That's why they carved chapels, and that's why in chapels they carved religious figures.
Religious services are held regularly in the Kinga Chapel, and couples can even get married underground if they donate at least 1,100 euros. During their tour, this choir was inspired to sing. The chapel has become famous for its acoustics and for its many details, such as chandeliers made of rock salt.
We don't have like this place in Indonesia, so this is very amazing for us. You know, even though for me myself, I come for the few times, but I'm still impressed with this place. This is very beautiful.
To think that people came here and worked on a daily basis for hundreds and hundreds of years is quite mind-blowing, isn't it?
Visitors can also experience how it might have felt to work in a salt mine by taking a different tour. Going on the authentic miner's route requires professional equipment, and some physical strength is needed to extract the rock salt.
This tour is very interesting. You can learn how things used to be here.
But it's not just tourists who come to the Velička salt mine. A below-ground health resort promises relief for people who suffer from chronic respiratory illnesses, such as asthma or certain allergies. The clinic, 135 meters underground, is a unique spa location, offering an especially beneficial microclimate.
It is the high relative humidity, stable constant temperature, and high concentration of natrium chloride in the air. The air is free for any pollutants which are abundant on the surface, and from allergens like pollen and other small particles.
And anyone who hasn't had enough after a 3-hour tour can even sleep here. Overnight stays are the latest attraction in Velička.
Musical heritage is a very important element to the Schloss Alma Hotel's history and existence. It is located in the German Alps, some 100 kilometers south of Munich. More than 200 concerts are performed here every year, mostly by solo artists, chamber musicians, and jazz musicians. There is definitely something quite special and enchanting about this place. So let's learn a little more about this hotel's history and cultural significance in our next report.
Schloss Alma lies at the foot of the Wetterstein Mountains in the German Alps. The landscape is stunning and the hotel majestic. It's also a popular venue for many of the world's greatest musicians.
Schloss Alma is my absolute favorite place. I've traveled a lot with my family too. Still, for me and my children, this place remains a dream.
Für mich und auch für meine Kinder ein Traumort. Die Zeit läuft anders, die Luft ist anders.
Time passes differently here. The air is different. It's a world of its own.
Alma exerts such a magical attraction that top musicians are happy to accept the hotel's offer, play for free in exchange for a few days' stay with their families.
It still sounded almost like just the chance to be surrounded by so much natural beauty. It gives you a kind of a space to enjoy music in an unpressured way, which is so fantastic.
And so we actually always find the right concentration, the right creativity here in Alma also. We are just looking for this the whole year, and when we finally get it, it's wonderful.
Schloss Alma plays host to over 200 concerts every year, most of them solo performances, chamber music, and jazz.
I do wonder why it's so magical. I think it's because everything fits. The dimensions, the location, and you probably feel all the history too.
Spürt man auch die Geschichte dann gleich.
Schloss Alma was built by philosopher and Protestant theologian Johannes Müller and completed in 1916. He wanted it to be a place where people would transcend their egos and behold the beauty of the surroundings. Back then, there were already around 100 cultural events a year. By the 1950s, Schloss Alma was attracting artists such as the Amadeus Quartet and Yehudi Menuhin. The rich and varied arts program complements the luxury and the natural beauty. There is certainly no shortage of eager artists.
I receive 400 or 500 inquiries every day. Many are incredibly interesting. My heart breaks when I have to turn them down, for technical reasons or because there's no available date. Some ensembles are just too big for the place.
And at the heart of the festivities to mark the first century of Schloss Alma, what else but music?
How about a walking tour or some scuba diving inside a cave? Or maybe you'd prefer enjoying a musical performance and a glass of local wine by an underground lake. Well, all these are within your reach at the Saint-Léonard Underground Lake, which is located in the canton of Valais in Switzerland. It is the largest natural underground lake known in Europe. If it sounds like an amazing place to visit, that's because it is. But don't just take my word for it. In our next report, we get to see all the images.
Rainbow trout are the only inhabitants of the biggest natural subterranean lake in Europe. They were brought here especially to the lake under the small Swiss village of Saint-Léonard, both to maintain the water quality and also as an extra attraction for tourists. Cédric Savio regularly guides visitors across the lake. He is fascinated by the calm.
We live in a world where we're trying to get closer to nature, to return to the essential things of life. This is a place where we can be more at one with nature, away from the outside world and all the excitement.
The subterranean lake is 300 meters long and 20 meters wide. Behind the rock formation is a cave that stretches for over a kilometer. But it's not accessible. The light projections allude to an old legend, according to which the girls of Saint-Léonard would come here to see the faces of their future husbands reflected in the water. Now the lake attracts some 80,000 visitors a year. The ceilings have been strengthened to prevent pieces of rock from falling on them.
You feel very safe here, and the water has an incredible energy. It's so clear. There's a fabulous feeling of safety. You can feel the resonance of the cave's energy. It's fabulous, really fabulous.
To know the stories from him, how it is created, I don't know, I just like how nature is formed and why suddenly here.
Diving and swimming are usually banned here, but sometimes exceptions are made. These professional divers brave the temperatures of 10 degrees Celsius. The wrecks at the bottom of the lake were installed by Savio and his team as a surprise at the end of the tour. The cave has a constant temperature of 15 degrees Celsius, perfect for storing wine. This one was made by Christophe Pétrissé. The winemaker has a vineyard 70 meters above the lake, an ideal location.
The conditions are very good for making wine. And the many visitors get to see that there are people making wine here. And that's very important. So people will talk about what we're doing.
The locals here were always aware of this water-filled cave, but it was only in the 1940s that it became more accessible, following an earthquake. All of a sudden, the small, quiet village of Saint-Léonard attracted a lot of unfamiliar attention.
It's definitely a plus for the village. Dozens of jobs have been created by the lake. And there have been economic benefits for restaurants, hotels, and businesses across the region.
Every year, around a dozen concerts are held in the cave. Tonight, there are about 100 people in the audience. On stage are The Two, a folk, country, and blues band from Lausanne. The musicians have toured the world, but they've never played on such an unusual stage before.
It's magical. There's an incredible silence. I think the audience feels it too. So there was silence in some pieces, and that changed our way of playing. It gave us the space to play with the silence. And that was impressive.
Roll that boat, man, go your home. Roll that boat, man, roll that boat, roll that.
Since the fall of the wall and German unification, Berlin has been continually redefining itself as the nation's capital. The city is experiencing a construction boom that doesn't look like it'll slow down anytime soon. New buildings and stylish apartment complexes are popping up, even in areas of former East Berlin that most people would not go near. We visited one such development located near an old prison, which has now been converted into luxury homes.
This is Artist Village, a series of designer townhouses on the edge of Berlin. The homes are located on the water with bike paths right at the doorstep. But this tranquil landscape has a dark side. For 113 years, it was home to a prison complex which closed in 1990. Since then, a new generation has moved in.
Hi, I'm Marcus. Come on in and take a look around.
The townhouse is 240 square meters over 5 stories. The loft is the masterpiece.
The special feature of the house is the loft on the 3rd floor. The room's 5.5 meters high, and there's a great view of the water. We like coming up here to watch TV, or we just sit down and enjoy the view.
The loft is also where the family likes to entertain. A kitchen was built discreetly into the wall. 3-meter-high doors open to reveal a fully stocked minibar. Marcus and his wife, also an architect, were involved in the layout of their home from the start in 2006.
This is my second favorite part of the house. The roof is a great place to get away from it all. We came up with the idea of opening it up by including these windows, and you can push them open.
The townhouse is just a 15-minute drive from downtown. Moving on now to the 2nd floor.
This floor includes our bedroom and bathroom. And when the doors are open, they more or less disappear into the wall. That gives the place an open plan effect.
Marcus and his wife made the decision to limit the use of color in their home, keeping it in line with the general gray, black, and white design. Splashes of color can be found in small details, like pictures on the wall.
Here we are on the 1st floor. Our daughter has her room here. There's also a guest room. This floor has lots of small rooms, so we designed the hallway with cupboard doors. That gives you the feeling that you're standing inside a cupboard. Then you open the doors, and you can see the rooms and the guest bathroom.
The doors throughout the entire house were specially designed to maintain the feeling of openness. Here in the kitchen, on the ground floor, the sliding door is also multifunctional, serving as a wall and chalkboard.
We wanted to create open spaces. When you come in, you have the large hallway. You then go through the kitchen. But we wanted to be able to close off the kitchen, so we included this large sliding door, so you can close it.
The kitchen opens onto a 75 square meter garden with a view of the former prison complex.
When we first moved here, there were just sandy spaces and the old prison. 2 years later, the prison was converted into apartments, and now they're all occupied. That was our Berlin waterside home. Thanks for coming by, and stop by again soon.
Tschüss, bis zum nächsten Mal.
I'm afraid we have run out of time. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and allowing me to share this half hour with you. Remember to follow us and interact with us on social media. All right, my friends, it's time to go. Hope to see you all very, very soon. Take care and have a good one.